Alright guys, welcome back to No Easy Path. This is the second in our series of 4 videos about our founding members, our contributors. This is my brother Roy. We're going to be going into a little bit about his biographical details and a little bit about just some base material. Kind of give you an idea of what perspective he has and brings into the tribe. With that said, Roy, brother?
Oh, sláinte.
Best part about being the interview in this scenario is I get to get the most drunk. So Roy, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I was basically your typical geek growing up. All gifted classes, big into fantasy role-playing games, stuff like that. I'm probably I actually am currently the only member of the tribe who has no military background. Because I have a birth defect in one knee and I blew out the other in a motorcycle accident. So that kind of gives me a very different perspective from my chosen brothers. Because you hear us throw the term brother around a lot, but that was a choice here. We're not actually blood related. We've chosen to be brothers. It's a big part of the tribe.
Most of us don't like our families. We chose
the
ones
we'll
we
get
associate
we'll get into that
with.
when we talk about what tribe means to us. We'll get there. I'm a father, great little girl, into a lot of the same stuff as me, actually does some of our martial arts training and some of our self-reliance training with us. That's the major points.
Well, she pretty much comes out to everything that we can get her out to.
Pretty much. But yeah, that's some of the important stuff about the background element. I went into during and after high school, I got very big into like LARP and stuff like that, and then kind of moved in, and we'll get into this a little more in the skill set, but that extended out into what got me into self-reliance and the skills involved. And that's actually where I met you, Aaron, you also, very geeky, came out to the LARP group. So, and we'll get into that more in Aaron's video as well.
Well, that's one of the things. Playing phone tag wasn't as fun as busting heads, and you kind of find that out after a little bit, and then your friends are wondering, why aren't you coming out anymore? Well, I'm getting my knuckles bloody.
Doing it with foam is fun. Doing it with, actual training weapons, a little more fun sometimes.
Yeah.
A little less fun at others.
Especially when you can throw knees and headbutts. So, what skill set do you have now, and what are you kind of hoping to gain and develop in yourself through your journey on No Easy Path?
Well, like I said, I did the LARP thing, and through that, I kind of, that was where I got started with the self-reliant skills. I kind of got into, like, leatherworking. I wanted armor, but I'm poor. I couldn't afford it, so I decided I had to make it. Yes.
Necessity of invention.
So I decided I needed to make it, so I started learning leatherworking, found out I had kind of a knack for it, as well as a real thorough enjoyment for it. And it went from, I need to make armor, to, well, I've got some tools that need sheaths. I've got a knife I like that really needs a home. And so I moved on from that to actual, like, general purpose leatherworking, and that's where I became a professional leatherworker. I did some amateur backyard type kickboxing when kickboxing was first getting popular in the mid to late 90s.
Hipster kickboxing?
Not hipster.
It wasn't done ironically?
No, it was not done ironically one little bit. It was done very sloppily, as I've told you before, and this will offer some perspective on my take on when we do self-defense videos. I don't have a dojo background. Like I said, in my About Me bit, I don't have a military background, so what I learned originally was me going out and saying, okay, well, what worked for me in real fights when I would get into fights in school, and what works for me in the ring, and then we've kind of adapted that mindset to what works for me when we train together. So that's what I kind of bring in a self-defense thing, and then I, of course, got into blacksmithing. I've done some brewing. You've had some of my mead before, back when I first started brewing it. I'm looking to get back into that. I think as far as, and of course I grew up behind the counter of a gun shop as a child as well, so I've been shooting since I was basically big enough to hold the gun. And then what I'm looking to learn, really, is I'm looking to get more into, I want to go further into blacksmithing, obviously. And I know that you have an interest in that. I know Patrick's expressed an interest in that. And it was going to be great for videos, especially because you guys are going to get to kind of learn along with them as I'm teaching, and by teaching, I'm going to be, again, learning new perspectives. That's one of the real big ones. Some of the other just random self-reliance woodcrafty stuff I'm really into, some of the homesteading stuff, timber frame building, for example, we've talked about if we can ever get some property doing some timber frame building. Really interested in that, want to learn a little bit of green woodworking, stuff like that.
Well, I that's one of the common threads that kind of runs throughout the whole tribe is basically the idea that, get into blacksmithing because nobody's making the shanks you want. So you come over to one of your brothers and you say, hey, I want something that does this for these reasons. Well, that's interesting. I haven't really seen that out on the market. Yeah, you got any bar stock around here? And then you kind of go from there. The same with some of the sheets and some of that other stuff. So...
Yeah.
The other thing that, Roy won't talk about it, but I will. One of the self-reliant skills that we've always wanted him to develop, he spent a summer in a Cajun restaurant over in New Orleans. And the idea that, that long-term shelf-stable food, while everybody else is starving in the zombie apocalypse, we can be eating gumbo and etouffee and getting a little bit fatter, while everybody else is getting a little bit more gaunt. I'm okay with that.
Well, you're talking about a culture that had to live on shipping stores, didn't have a lot of growing land. So yeah, there was a lot of shelf-stable cooking, and there's a lot you can do with that. And we'll get into that because we have a whole video series planned with me kind of at the helm and then Aaron kind of running second on that, where we will be doing a lot of the cooking element, the shelf-stable cooking and the preparing a larder and that sort of stuff.
Well, and absolutely. I mean, we're going to definitely be teaching Nelson that as well because there's going to be times that we want to take nights off the kitchen. And if you can make tree rats and egg stealers taste good, you can pretty much knock over anything with a bullet and throw it in a pot. And that's kind of one of the bases behind Cajun cooking, a lot of pork cooking, I think, when you get right down into it. They had to work with what was slower than them or a killing method.
It's a lot of just period cooking in general. I mean, we're talking about, again, like we said, stuff that can last on the move, shelf-stable stuff, and then stuff you can acquire on the move.
I'm not eating any of those Roman recipes, no matter how hard you ask. I'm not doing it. So the last question, why did you choose to be a part of a tribe?
Well, I don't even think it was so much of a choice. It was just kind of a natural evolution. I know you and I... Of the four of us, you and I have had the longest tribal relationship. We kind of started training with a few other people before we started working with Nelson and Patrick. And before we started conceptualizing No Easy Path, we had, we did kind of conceptualize a similar thing that we didn't really get into as deeply because we didn't have the other two kind of acting as a counterpoint and as a driving force.
I had a fucking corporate job.
That as well. But it just kind of evolved. I mean, I would hang out, my home life isn't the greatest. When I didn't have my daughter, I'd basically be crashing at your place, hanging out, cooking, whatever. And it just kind of grew up. I mean, you started calling it a tribe before it really had the connotations it does now for us. And so I started even identifying as brothers long before I ever thought about this idea of the family you choose. And that's really what tribe is it's the family you choose over the family that you're born into.
Yeah, if you can have somebody wake up on your couch 3 or 4 days in a row and you're not hating that person by day 5, that's a relationship that you probably want to look at a little bit deeper and look into developing a little bit more, So with that said, guys, this is Roy. Look out for some more videos for him. He wants to do more of the blacksmithing and some of the leather crafting work.
Some archery work that you're going to see.
Look for those Cajun videos to come out before any of that shit. So,